Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today's story is about a boy everyone thought would never succeed, the son of a billionaire who failed every test, every class, and every expectation placed on him. Teachers gave up on him. His classmates mocked him. Even his own father began to lose hope. But everything changed when a quiet new maid walked into the house, and taught him a lesson that no school ever could. In the heart of the city stood a massive glass mansion that everyone knew belonged to billionaire Daniel Whitmore. His company dominated industries around the world, and his name was associated with power, wealth, and success. People admired him, feared him, and envied him, but inside that mansion was a secret problem that Daniel Whitmore could never solve. His only son, Ethan Whitmore. Ethan was 15 years old, and despite having access to the best schools, the best tutors, and every opportunity money could buy, he was failing everything, every exam, every subject. Every semester, the school reports kept coming back with the same words: below expectations. Needs improvement. Unfocused. Teachers said Ethan never paid attention. He stared out the window during lessons. He rarely finished assignments. Sometimes he didn't even try. The other students whispered about him in the hallways. Imagine being that rich and still failing school. His dad probably just buys his grades. But even money couldn't fix Ethan's report cards. At home, the tension grew worse every day. Daniel Whitmore had built his empire from nothing. He believed in discipline, hard work, and results. To him, failure was unacceptable. One evening, Ethan sat quietly at the long marble dining table while his father flipped through another report card. Daniel's face slowly darkened. Another F in mathematics, he said coldly. Ethan stared down at his plate. And science. And history. Ethan, do you understand how embarrassing this is? Ethan didn't answer. Daniel slammed the paper onto the table. I built a billion-dollar empire. I didn't do that by being lazy or careless. Still silence. Finally Daniel sighed in frustration. I've hired the best tutors in the country for you. Why aren't you improving? Ethan whispered, barely audible, I don't know. Daniel leaned back in his chair, disappointed. I'm starting to think you simply don't have what it takes. Those words stayed in Ethan's mind long after dinner ended. That night he sat alone in his enormous bedroom. The room had everything a teenager could want: gaming consoles, expensive gadgets, huge screens, yet none of it made him feel better. He stared at his school books but couldn't focus. Numbers blurred together. Words on the pages felt meaningless. Eventually he closed the book and muttered quietly to himself, maybe Dad's right. A few days later, something new happened at the Whitmore mansion. The head housekeeper informed Daniel that they had hired a new maid to help with cleaning and maintenance. The mansion was enormous, and staff came and went often. The new maid arrived early Monday morning. Her name was Maria. Maria was a quiet woman in her early 30s. She dressed simply and carried herself with calm dignity. Her skin was dark, her voice gentle, and her eyes observant. Most of the staff barely noticed her, but Ethan did. One afternoon Ethan sat in the library pretending to study while Maria dusted the shelves nearby. He kept staring at the same math problem for nearly 20 minutes. Finally he groaned and dropped his pencil. Maria glanced over. Hard problem? She asked softly. Ethan looked surprised. Yeah, impossible. Maria walked closer and looked at the notebook. It was a simple algebra equation. She studied it for a moment. That one isn't impossible, she said. Ethan laughed bitterly. It is for me. Maria tilted her head slightly. Would you like me to show you something? Ethan frowned. You know math? She smiled gently, just a little. Ethan shrugged. Fine. Go ahead. Maria picked up the pencil. Instead of solving the equation immediately, she asked him a question. Ethan, why do you think this problem exists? He blinked. What do you mean? Why did someone create it? I don't know. To torture students? Maria chuckled softly. No. Math problems exist to show patterns. Once you see the pattern, the answer becomes simple. She rewrote the equation slowly and explained each step in a calm, patient voice. For the first time, Ethan understood what the numbers meant. Within minutes, the problem that had frustrated him suddenly made sense. Ethan's eyes widened. Wait, that's it? Maria nodded. That's it. He grabbed another problem from the page. Can you show me this one too? Maria hesitated. I'm supposed to be cleaning. Please. She smiled. All right. Just one more. But one problem turned into 3. Then 5. Then an entire page, and by the time Maria left the library, Ethan had solved more math problems in 1 hour than he had solved all week. For the first time in months, he felt something unusual, confidence. The next day Ethan waited in the library again, and sure enough, Maria came to dust the shelves. More homework? She asked. Ethan nodded eagerly. Yeah. And so it began. Every afternoon, while the rest of the house remained busy, Ethan and Maria spent an hour studying together. But Maria didn't teach like the expensive tutors. She never rushed, she never judged him. Instead, she asked questions that made Ethan think. Why do you think the author wrote this story? What pattern do you see in this science experiment? If you were the historian, how would you explain this event? Slowly, Ethan's mind began to wake up. Subjects that once felt confusing started to make sense. Weeks passed. One afternoon Ethan finally asked the question that had been on his mind. Maria, how do you know all this? She paused while wiping a bookshelf, then she answered quietly. I studied education in university. Ethan stared at her. You were a teacher? Yes. Then why are you working here as a maid? Maria gave a small smile. Life doesn't always go the way we plan. Ethan felt something strange in his chest. Respect. From that day on, he tried even harder, and for the first time in years. Ethan started passing tests, first a C. Then a B. Then another B. His teachers were shocked. They couldn't believe the sudden improvement. At home, Daniel Whitmore noticed 2.1 evening. Ethan handed him a test paper. Daniel examined it carefully. 87%. He looked up, stunned. This is the highest grade you've ever received in math. Ethan smiled slightly. Daniel narrowed his eyes. What changed? Ethan hesitated, then he answered honestly. Maria helped me. Daniel frowned. The maid? Yes. Daniel looked skeptical, but the results were undeniable. Weeks later the school held a major academic competition. Students from across the district competed in mathematics and science challenges. To everyone's surprise, Ethan signed up. His classmates laughed when they heard Ethan Whitmore in the academic competition. This will be hilarious. But Ethan ignored them, because he remembered something Maria had told him. People don't fail because they're not smart. They fail because they stop believing they can learn. The day of the competition arrived. Students filled the large school auditorium. Dozens of difficult problems appeared on the screens. The room grew silent as everyone began solving. Ethan's heart pounded, but then he remembered Maria's voice. Look for the pattern, think step by step, and slowly. The answers came. 1 by 1. 2 hours later the judges announced the results. 3rd place, 2nd place. Then the entire room froze when the final name was called. 1st place. Ethan Whitmore. The audience erupted in shock. His classmates stared in disbelief. Teachers whispered to each other, and Ethan stood there, stunned. That evening he rushed home to tell Maria, but when he arrived at the mansion, something felt wrong. The head housekeeper approached him. Ethan. Maria isn't here anymore. His smile disappeared. What do you mean? She left this morning. Left? Why? The housekeeper handed him a small envelope. She asked me to give you this. Ethan opened it quickly. Inside was a short handwritten note. Ethan, you never needed someone to teach you. You only needed someone to believe in you. Keep learning. Keep asking questions. And remember that your value is not defined by your father's money, but by your own curiosity and kindness. I'm proud of you. Maria. Ethan stared at the note for a long time. Later that night he walked into his father's office. Daniel Whitmore looked up. What is it? Ethan placed the competition trophy on the desk. Daniel examined it slowly. You won? Yes. Daniel leaned back in his chair, impressed. I underestimated you. Ethan nodded quietly. So did I. Daniel studied his son for a moment. Where is this Maria now? Ethan looked at the note again. I don't know. Daniel was silent for a few seconds, then he said something unexpected. Find her. Ethan looked up. What? Daniel smiled slightly. If she turned my failing son into a champion. I think she deserves more than a maid's salary. And somewhere out there, Maria continued walking forward in life, never knowing that the boy she helped would carry her lesson forever, because sometimes the greatest teachers aren't the ones standing in front of classrooms, sometimes they are the quiet people the world overlooks, and sometimes, one person believing in you is all it takes to change everything. That if this story inspired you, make sure to like the video, share it with someone who might need encouragement today, and subscribe to the channel for more powerful stories like this. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.